This new prisoner, Kyle, is taken to the combat area in the prison, and his opponent is none other than the reigning prison fight champion, Andre. Everyone's busy placing bets, even the warden.
I give you 20-1 on Andre.
No way this American can win.
No one expects the weak-looking newcomer to last more than a few seconds.
Hold on to your panties! The party is about to begin!
As the match begins, Andre's seasoned tricks soon put Kyle on the defensive. Kyle is knocked down again and again, but he keeps getting up, enduring every strike with sheer willpower. Finally, Kyle finds an opening and lands a heavy punch. Andre grows furious, unleashes a vicious counterattack, slamming Kyle to the ground and even slamming Kyle's legs against a metal pole. Just when it seems like it's all over, Kyle kicks Andre between the legs. He jumps on him. The guards rush to pull him off, but it's too late. Kyle has ripped open Andre's windpipe. Blood gushes everywhere. Andre lost his life on the spot. Kyle roars like a beast. Everyone watching is stunned. What had turned a meek sheep into a bloodthirsty monster? 1 year ago, Kyle LeBlanc is an American engineer working overseas in Magnitogorsk, Russia. His job at a mining plant pays little and demands long hours, often keeping him away from home.
I feel like I never see you anymore, you know? I miss just going to the beach together.
When his wife complains that they haven't seen each other in a long time, he immediately takes time off and goes home. On the way, he calls Gray to tell her he's almost there. She's thrilled, but fails to notice the danger looming nearby. The signal suddenly drops, and at home, the power cuts out. She fumbles for a flashlight and checks the fuse box. When Kyle calls again, he hears her scream. A man appears behind Gray, attacking her. Kyle, alarmed, slams on the gas, racing home while calling the police and knocking over stalls in his urgency. Back at home, Gray resists her attacker with fierce determination, choosing death over submission. Enraged, the man stabs her. Kyle arrives moments later, only to find his wife lying lifeless in a pool of blood. As he tends to her, the man strikes him from behind and flees. Fueled by rage, Kyle chases him, catching up to a tram where the two engage in a savage fight. As the man tries to escape, Kyle grabs him and the two crash through a window and onto the street. Kyle attempts to subdue him, but is knocked down. Despite his injuries, Kyle continues to chase, only to be arrested by the arriving police for street fighting.
Sam! He killed my wife!
While the criminal escapes. Due to insufficient evidence and police negligence, the court declares Sergio Kovic, Gray's killer, not guilty.
What's wrong?
His family has a lot of money. They bought the judge.
Kovic, wealthy and influential, has bribed every official, including the judge. In a display of arrogance, he smugly approaches Kyle in the courtroom. Unable to bear the injustice, Kyle snaps. He grabs a guard's gun and killing Kovic in front of everyone. He is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He is sent to the infamous and brutal Krvavy prison, a remote fortress that houses the most dangerous and violent criminals. Fights are routine. The warden is corrupt and ruthless, profiting from prison fights with no regard for the inmates' lives or deaths. Along with Kyle, there's a young American named Billy, whose good looks catch the attention of both the prison bullies and the warden himself. When they arrive, the warden intimidates them by showing them a beaten escapee.
You can try and run if you like. No one has ever made it alive.
On his first day, they confiscate Kyle's possessions and demand his wedding ring.
Ring, suka.
When he refuses, they beat him and steal the ring, his last connection to his wife. Her photo is tossed on the ground. No one dares speak up. Kyle is then forced to shower and have his head shaved. Later, he notices the guard now wears his ring. In the middle of the night, Kyle hears a door creak open. Half awake, he sees Billy, another inmate, being led away by guards who refuse to explain. Andre, he bribed the guards to have him delivered.
I need to see some green tomorrow.
You'll get it.
And that night, Andre violently assaulted him. Billy's agonizing screams echo throughout the prison, robbing Kyle of sleep. The next morning, the inmates line up to brush their teeth. Kyle sees Billy again, barely able to stand. Andre, in high spirits from the previous night, he even makes a lewd kissing sound, triggering Kyle's rage. Kovic had done the same gesture before dying. Kyle punches Andre. They wrestle violently until Andre slams Kyle against the railing. As Andre pins him down, Kyle kicks free. Guards arrive and drag Kyle away. The guards, clearly in collusion with Andre, throw Kyle into solitary confinement, an unbearable reeking pit of a cell with barely any light, a thin stone slab for a bed, and a gutter of sewage running through. Food consists of foul slop. Bloodstains on the walls hint at past suicides. Trapped and broken, Kyle loses his will to live. He tears his clothes to make a noose, but the fabric fails him. He tries smashing his head against the wall, but even that fails to end his life. Collapsing, defeated, he suddenly sees a moth flutter through the broken window. The moth reminds him of a moment with his wife.
You know, some people believe that when you die, you return in another form.
It lands on his food, then his spoon. To Kyle, it feels like a sign. His wife, urging him to live. From the next cell, another prisoner yells and bangs the wall. Kyle yells back. Their voices become lifelines. Eventually, Kyle is released from solitary and assigned a new cell. Oddly, though it has 4 bunks, only one inmate lives there, a muscular African-American man known as Inmate 451.
Better watch out, huh? He killed his last 3 cellmates.
A belief encouraged by the sadistic Lieutenant Tolik, who assumes 451 will end Kyle too.
If you want to change cells, you let me know.
But when Kyle enters, he finds that 451, while imposing, is surprisingly calm, organized. He reads, writes in a journal, and keeps the place tidy. The lights go off. Kyle panics, but nothing happens. Kyle's daily routine now consists of hard labor under the scorching sun with the other inmates. During a visitation from Paul, his brother-in-law, Kyle learns that Gray's body has been brought home. Paul urges Kyle to bribe the guards to make prison life more bearable.
Kyle, this is Russia. We can pay them off.
But Kyle simply stares at the idle, indifferent guards and says nothing. One day during recreation in the prison yard, Andre intentionally hurls a ball at Kyle, but it accidentally hits a member of a rival gang. Tensions ignite, and a violent confrontation breaks out between the two groups. Guards arrive just in time to break it up.
What fight?
Go to Sparka.
Telling them that if they really want to fight, they should take it to Sparka, the official battleground. Kyle moves to the side and starts chatting with Billy. Billy shares that he's serving a 1.5-year sentence for driving whilst intoxicated and crashing into a restaurant with a girl he had just met.
So they charged me with, gross negligence to private property. I got a fucking 1.5 years.
Another prisoner, Malachi, an American in a wheelchair, joins the conversation. He explains that the man who threw the ball is Andre, part of the Russian mafia, and the one beside him is their leader, Bolt.
They got a deal with the guards. They run the place. The rest of the gangs just try to kill each other.
Malachi urges Kyle to bribe the guards to get a new cell.
And get yourself out of that crazy motherfucker in his cell.
That night, Kyle dreams of his wife's brutal murder, his body trembling uncontrollably. Suddenly, 451 clamps a hand tightly over Kyle's mouth and nose. Just as he's about to suffocate, 451 suddenly lets go. He gives Kyle a gesture. He was simply annoyed by the noise. Kyle, rattled to the core, doesn't sleep again that night. The next day at mealtime, Kyle chats with Billy and the others. Suddenly, Andrew shows up and starts harassing Kyle. Billy steps in, but his friends quickly pull him back before things escalate. Later, Kyle tries to bribe a guard with the little money he has in hopes of being moved to another cell. The guard takes the money but scoffs at the small amount.
America. Expensive.
Kyle realizes he's been played but can only swallow the humiliation. Soon after, music blares in the yard and prisoners start dancing wildly. Kyle asks around and learns that they're celebrating a prison tradition. In this prison, 3 major gangs are in constant conflict, and the greedy warden, General Khrushchev, allows organized fights between them to resolve disputes.
General Khrushchev makes money betting with his pig friends, and everybody's happy. Except the poor schmuck who gets his fucking head bashed in.
Kyle's recent enemy, Andre, turns out to be the reigning champion of the ring. With raw power, he knocks out his opponent in just a few rounds. Even after his opponent is clearly down and out, Andre refuses to stop. Because the decision to end the fight lies not with him, but with the warden. Billy, unable to watch the gruesome scene, turns away. Another clash between gangs breaks out during the fight, prompting the guards to intervene once more. Kyle asks Malachi if 451 ever participates in these matches.
He refused. Only reason he's still alive. Guards make a lot of money putting inmates in a cell.
As a twisted reward, the guards throw Billy into Andre's cell. Desperate, Billy tries to defend himself with a toothbrush he sharpened in the bathroom. But he's no match for Andre. Instead, Billy ends up stabbing himself by accident and gets sent to the infirmary, injured and humiliated. The next day, while Kyle works, Andre comes looking for trouble again. He orders his men to give Kyle a savage beating. The guards, as usual, turn a blind eye.
This is not America. Don't be a hero.
Afterwards, Kyle is thrown into solitary confinement. In the darkness of the isolation cell, he befriends the inmate in the next cell through the wall and after what feels like an eternity, Kyle finally makes it through solitary. But just as he's released, Andrew shows up again to taunt him.
I'm going to make you my favorite suka.
This time, the guards issue a warning. That night, Kyle sneaks a peek at 451's journal and finds an entry saying he lives only for revenge. Just then, 451 walks in and catches Kyle red-handed. Kyle quickly closes the notebook and walks off. While eating, Andre and his goons provoke Kyle once more.
I'll see you tonight.
This time, Kyle's had enough. He punches Andre in the face, but he's quickly overwhelmed and beaten by the gang. Luckily, the guards arrive in time to stop them from killing him. Kyle ends up in solitary again. That night, a torrential downpour floods the cell through holes in the roof. In his despair, Kyle wonders why. As the true victim, he's the one suffering in hell while the perpetrators enjoy their heaven. Then, a realization hits him. Only violence can suppress violence. He must become more ruthless than anyone else. Kyle begins rigorous training. He climbs walls, does pull-ups, lifts weights, and runs to build stamina. No matter where or when, Kyle trains relentlessly. Meanwhile, Billy continues to devise escape plans during outside work detail, but fails again and again. They has intended to punish Billy.
You're more useful to me as a bitch.
That night, Billy is sent to Andre's cell again. As the days turn into months, Kyle's transformation reaches its peak. He's no longer the soft gentleman who once entered the prison. Now, his face is hardened, his body carved with a lean muscle. The time has come for his first official fight, in which he brutally eliminates Andre. Everyone is shocked by his transformation. Back in the cell, 451 looks at the changed Kyle with deep concern.
Feels good, doesn't it?
From that day on, Kyle becomes a rising star in the prison's underground fight scene. He fights with no regard for his own life, gaining popularity and power with every kill. The one who once abhorred violence now replaces Andre as its embodiment. As time passes, he begins to lose his grip on sanity. He cuts his tangled long hair and slicks it back, taking on the look of a gang leader. Even when he sees 451 again, he no longer sees him as a threat.
Do you even know who you are?
During another visit, Paul tells Kyle that he has spoken with the ambassador and hopes to make his time in prison more bearable. But Kyle, numb and hopeless, dismisses it all.
Don't give me hope. Nothing will change.
On Russian Independence Day, Kyle is pitted against Valya, a hostile new prisoner transferred in specifically to fight him. Meanwhile, Billy attempts another escape by sneaking off, once again trying to flee a world he despises. This time, he's betrayed by Malachi, who needs special medication and informs the guards.
Go easy on him. He's just a kid.
This scene is all witnessed by 451. Later, Billy is locked overnight with Valya, who beats him nearly to death after Billy spits in his face. The next morning, Billy lies on the floor covered in bruises, barely breathing. But before taking his last breath, he whispers to Kyle,
Don't let them turn you into something you're not.
He later dies from his injuries. Those words finally shake Kyle awake. With Billy's final words echoing in his mind, Kyle realizes he must now fight a different battle, the battle for inner peace. It is the only way he can reclaim the man he once was. Billy's body is dumped like trash. Soon, another fight is scheduled. Kyle is to face Valya, the same man who tortured Billy. This time, Kyle crouches on the ground with a blank expression, refusing to fight no matter how viciously Valya attacks him.
Get up! Fight!
This infuriates the warden, who had placed heavy bets on the match. Enraged, he calls off the fight and orders Kyle to be punished. Guards string Kyle up on an iron frame. He's left to bake under the sun during the day and shiver in the rain at night, all in an attempt to break him.
But let me know when you're ready to fight.
But Kyle doesn't eat, doesn't drink, and never surrenders. He would rather die hanging than fight again. Meanwhile, 451 continues his vengeance.
It's for you. From Billy.
He pours lighter fluid on Malachi and sets him ablaze, avenging Billy's death. As he watches Malachi burn, 451 remembers what he suffered as a child at the hands of a teacher, and how he set that teacher on fire.
I finally realized the temperature is 451 degrees.
Kyle's unyielding resistance begins to inspire the other inmates.
He's an idiot. He should have fought.
He is fighting for himself.
Moved by Kyle's strength, gang leaders like Victor extend hands to rival leaders, and together they agree to stop participating in the fights. When the next tournament arrives, none of the three prison factions are willing to fight.
I want to fight. Now!
Furious, the warden realizes Kyle has ruined his game, but he doesn't want to end Kyle, not yet.
If we kill him, we turn him into a martyr. We must destroy his mystique in front of everyone once and for all.
Instead, he orders Kyle to be released and taken to the infirmary to recover. Once healed, he is sent back to solitary, back to his dark cell, and to the familiar knocking on the wall from the neighboring inmate. Days later, the warden stages a final public spectacle. Claiming his authority has been challenged, he wants to crush Kyle in front of everyone, to destroy the hope Kyle represents.
Tonight, I will show you the consequences of this kind of disobedience.
But instead of using guards, he unleashes a monstrous prisoner, LeBlanc, a masked giant who had always been kept isolated from the rest. Kyle had heard his knocks through the walls during solitary. LeBlanc, towering and wild, breaks free of his restraints and charges at Kyle like a beast. Kyle tries to run upstairs but is thrown against a wall. He stands no chance. As LeBlanc begins to strangle him, Kyle slaps the metal door repeatedly. He recognizes the rhythm. It's Kyle. Tears fall as he reaches out and gently touches Kyle's face. They had been companions in the darkness. This sight stuns the warden. He immediately orders the guards to shoot Kyle. Realizing he's doomed, Kyle steps forward to provoke the guards.
Kill me!
But the inmates begin to riot, shouting in outrage. Just as the guards prepare to fire, LeBlanc charges forward, taking bullet after bullet. He slams one guard into the wall and smashes another through the iron gate. Seeing the gate broken, prisoners storm out and chaos erupts. Kyle and LeBlanc have flipped the prison upside down, sparking a full-scale uprising. The warden flees in a panic. Kyle holds LeBlanc's hand tightly as he dies, silently thanking him for his sacrifice. The riot is only suppressed when the warden calls in heavily armed troops with machine guns. Kyle breaks open the cell door and rescues 451. But when they reach the yard, armed forces are already waiting. Many prisoners are gunned down. Kyle and 451 are forced to turn back. After everything, 451 finally opens up to Kyle.
Everyone that killed me here talk too much. People say one thing, but they do another.
Kyle, exhausted, tells his last remaining friend that he wants to escape this hell.
I can get you out.
451 says he has a plan, but he wants Kyle to fight in one last match and smuggle his diary out. It contains evidence of 2 decades of violence, murder, and corruption by the warden for the past 20-something years that he had planned to expose to the government.
After the fight, they would take you to a field and shoot you. That's their plan.
That's the place where he can escape. While the guards are getting the prisoners under control, 451 shows Kyle a secret passage to the prison garage for their next move. Before long, Kyle faced his final fight in the prison. His opponent is none other than Valya, the ruthless brute who had once tormented Billy. But this time, Kyle wasn't the same man. He had nothing to lose, and he came in with full force. Though Valya still held the advantage in size and strength, Kyle's clever technique turned the tide quickly. In a swift, brutal move, Kyle found an opening and snapped Valya's arm. Just when Valya, desperate and cornered, pulled a hidden knife from his boot and lunged in a sneak attack, Kyle caught his wrist midair. Using Valya's hand, he drove the blade into Valya's boss standing nearby.
This is for Billy.
This was justice. As 451 had predicted, Kyle won. The guards immediately handcuffed him and quietly led him away to the garage, an execution site, not an exit. Just as the 2 guards brought Kyle into the garage, 451 struck, taking down one of them with a sudden attack. Kyle wrestled the other to the ground and held him at gunpoint. The tables had turned. After disarming them, Kyle reclaimed the ring that had been stolen from him, a symbol of the life he'd lost. Then, likely condemning the man to a lifetime in a wheelchair, 451 tossed Kyle a guard's uniform and pointed to the warden's car. But 451 himself refused to go.
This is my home. You got your part, I got mine.
He had something else to finish. He handed Kyle the diary.
Make sure people know.
Because Kyle was driving the warden's car, no one dared question him at the security checkpoints. He passed through every gate without suspicion, carrying the evidence that would soon bring Krvavi prison to its reckoning. He was free. Back inside, 451 made his final move. He broke into the warden's office with a pair of pliers in hand.
You talk too much.
When the guards arrived moments later, they found the warden collapsed on the floor, his tongue ripped out, silenced forever. 451 would likely spend the rest of his life behind bars, but he had done what mattered. He gave the truth a way out. As for Kyle, he returned to the United States. He told the world everything. 3 months later, Krvavi prison is shut down.